Hey guys, Aaron Farmer here with My Sugar-Free Journey, and we are on day 20 of our 28-day weight loss challenge. And today we're going to talk about artificial sweeteners. What are they? Are they a good substitute for sugar? So hopefully these are some of the questions we're going to answer. Which are good? Which are bad? Which one is the best? Those are usually the questions I get. I'm going to tell you up front that we don't really know the answer to a lot of these questions. The science just isn't where it needs to be on all of these artificial sweeteners. But so what I'm going to tell you is, as much as we do know, as much as has been proven in a lab, and then from there you can kind of make your own decisions. Probably the biggest thing you need to know is that switching from sugar to artificial sweeteners doesn't show any statistical significant rate of weight loss in the general population in any study, which is shocking. You'd think if sugar is making you fat, if you take the sugar out of your diet, people would be getting thinner. But that's just not what we're seeing. 33% of all sugar consumption is in our drinks, and 42% of our drinks are now diet. So you would think that somebody somewhere would be losing weight with so much sugar removed from our diet, but we just aren't seeing that. There's been a huge uptick in the number of diet drinks that are available, and we still have the obesity epidemic. In fact, there isn't a single study that's been conducted that shows that switching from full sugar drinks to diet drinks affects weight at all. Now, we don't know why that is. We don't know exactly why that's happening. Maybe the diet drinks themselves are making people fat in a way that we don't fully understand. Or maybe people that drink diet drinks feel like they're being good, so they can afford to eat that extra Twinkie or something. No one is really sure what's going on here. Donald Trump said a couple months ago he's never seen a skinny person drink a Diet Coke. He may be onto something. Who knows? So here's what we do know about artificial sweeteners. There are 5 things we're pretty sure of. Number 1. So I'm going to teach 2 words. There's pharmacodynamics and pharmacokinetics. Pharmacodynamics is what a drug does to your body. So when you take a drug, whatever happens on your insides because of that drug, those are the pharmacodynamics of that drug. Pharmacokinetics is what your body does to the drug. We have tons of information about pharmacokinetics, pharmacokinetics of artificial sweeteners, because the FDA demands it. The FDA needs to know what that artificial sweetener does to the human body when you introduce it to a human body. All the company has to do to prove all the company has to do is prove to the FDA that a new sweetener is safe and efficacious to get it approved, and they don't ask for any work to be done on the pharmacodynamics. So we don't know the long-term results of what the effect of your body on the drug, basically. So because the FDA doesn't have it, the sugar companies won't research it because they don't want to know what the long-term use of sweetener does to food intake, weight, body fat, or metabolic status, because if they find that stuff out and it's detrimental to their product, they could lose millions, if not billions, of dollars. So it's not in their best interest to do those studies. We do know that some sweeteners have been linked to a host of nervous system and gastrointestinal issues, but a lot of the evidence that comes out of that is mostly anecdotal. There's been plenty of, I've heard from plenty of doctors that when their patients come in with certain nervous system issues like MS, the first thing they'll do is take them off artificial sweeteners and see if that helps the issue. And I heard one doctor said that in about 20 to 25% of his patients, just taking his patients off of artificial sweeteners does wonders to help some of the nervous system issues that he's seeing. So it's anecdotal. There hasn't been any big studies on that. Just know that there might be issues, and it may be true that some people can use artificial sweeteners all day long and it not harm them one bit, but there's a certain segment of the population that is more sensitive to them than others. We just don't know. Number two, when you taste something sweet, a host of hormonal changes happens within your body to deal with the sugar that's about to hit the system. So we know there's just a hormonal cascade that happens when you eat something sweet to get your body ready to absorb that. Because remember, sugar's a toxin. Your body does not want sugar in your bloodstream for any longer than absolutely necessary. So your body leaps into action to get that sugar and to either use it for energy or store it as fat. But what happens when the hypothalamus and the pancreas are primed to deal with a sugar hit, but that sugar never comes? Do those hormones just pass harmlessly through the system? Do they do damage on the way out? Do they urge you to go find something sugary and sweet so that those hormones don't go to waste? Again, we just don't know. Number three, diet sweeteners might change the composition of gut bacteria, causing GI distress and added visceral fat. We've talked before about how important your gut biome is, the amount of bacteria. Well, artificial sweeteners may change that gut biome, and not necessarily for our good. Again, not a ton of information about this. 4, diet sweeteners might cause the same addiction problems that sugar does. Have you ever tried to stop drinking diet drinks and thought that the withdrawal symptoms were going to kill you? Well, why is that? I can tell you from personal experience, when I cut out sugar, it took less than a week for me to, I went through withdrawal. It was intense, but it wasn't like crippling. But once I went through that week-long period, I don't really have any urge to go back to the sugar. But Coke Zero had its hooks in me far, far deeper than sugar ever did, and I would not have expected that going into this. It took multiple times of quitting and restarting, and trying to wean myself off. And I tried everything that I could do to get Coke Zero, out of my diet, and it took a long time. It took me cleaning up basically every other aspect of my diet before I could get Coke Zero out. It just took a long time. So why was the Coke Zero more addicted to me than sugar? You wouldn't expect that, but it was. And that's just my personal experience with it. Number 5, for every artificial sweetener on the market, there is someone somewhere saying that it's poisonous. Look up aspartame poisoning. In fact, I can never remember how to pronounce it. Aspartame or aspartame. I think it's aspartame. Just look up aspartame poisoning on Google and see how many entries there are. There's tons, and some of those studies are legitimate, and some have been financed by Big Sugar to discredit artificial sweeteners so that you go back to sugar. So, and again, the science here isn't in. Just know that artificial sweeteners might not be the cure-all for your sugar addiction. That there may be a possibility that you're doing more harm than good. My personal feeling on artificial sweeteners is that you should use them as a crutch. Once you cut out sugar, if I cut out sugars and all artificial sweeteners at the same time, I think I would have gone insane. So it was important for me to cut out the sugar and cut out the grains and the carbs, but I kept artificial sweeteners in. I kept sweetening my coffee. I kept drinking Coke Zero. I kept sweetening my tea. And then once I kind of went through the process of detoxing basically from sugar, I just started taking it out little by little. First it was the sweetener in my coffee. I felt I really didn't need it, just a little splash of milk and I was fine. And then I worked on Coke Zero, and it took me about 9 months really to maybe even longer to kick Coke Zero out. And now I'm starting to reduce the sweet and low packets that I put in my tea at night, and I'm down to 2. So eventually those will be gone. So just wean, don't worry about it if you're just starting off, but eventually wean yourself off of that, because there is enough evidence that there is a possibility that they cause some trouble with the body to, at the very least, give you pause. And remember, our goal isn't to lose weight, even though that's kind of what I talk about most often. Our goal is to get healthy. And so if artificial sweeteners can be used as a crutch to get you closer to your goals, fine, but eventually you're going to have to deal with some of the health issues that might be caused by artificial sweeteners and start weaning those off, I believe. So let me just give you a few other tips that have nothing to do with artificial sweeteners. Let's talk about how to shop at the grocery store. So you're going to the grocery store, you're going to fill your basket up with good food and feed your family good food. How to do that? Number one, don't ever shop hungry. When you shop hungry, you make bad decisions. And don't shop with your kids either if you can help it. Kids help you make bad decisions. they keep asking for candy bars and stuff. Number two, shop the edges of the store. Stay in produce, stay in meat, stay in dairy. There's just not a whole lot of food that's in the center of the store that's good for you. I can count on one hand the number of things that I buy from the center aisles, and I'm the better for it. I buy, I could probably list them: coconut oil, olive oil, tea bags, mustard, olives. That's it. Oh, and I buy go in the flour aisle and get like almond meal and milled flaxseed, a couple different things, things like that. But very, very little, very, very few things do I buy in the center of the aisle. I've learned how to make my own spaghetti sauce. I've learned how to make my own, turn zucchini into spaghetti and eat spaghetti squash and I don't know why I'm fixated on spaghetti, but all the things that I used to eat that used to be, high in carbs, I figured out, healthy, low carb, and low carb or no carb ways to eat them. I'm rambling. Number three, if it has a label, it's processed. Avoid it if you can. Labels are bad news. Just stay away from them. Number four, real food goes bad. But that's a good thing. If bacteria can digest food, that means you can digest food. If you have food in your pantry that can stay good for forever and ever and not go bad, that's not a good thing. But knowing that good food goes bad, plan your meals so that you have just enough. You don't want to buy $70 worth of produce and have it go bad before you can eat it all. Make sure that you're keeping your stock rotated and you're eating the oldest stuff first. Number five, there are at least 50 different names of sugar. Learn them so you can avoid them. And I've got that list at the blog, mysugarfreejourney.com. You go up to the top where it says Sugar Guides and Info. Click there, and it'll take you to a list of all the names of sugar. A few other tips: if you're feeding formula to a baby, avoid formula with added sugar if at all possible. Those high sugar formulas are the number one reason why we have an epidemic of obese six-month-olds. Number two, don't drink your sugar. If you just absolutely have to have sugar, make sure that it's sugar mixed with food that has a lot of fiber in it to lessen the impact of it. Don't ever drink a sugary drink. And number three, if you're gonna make a dessert, make it rare, like once a month or maybe once every 2 weeks that you have a dessert. But try to keep as much sugar out of your diet as possible. So what if you can't cook? You're out, or for whatever reason you can't cook, you don't like to cook. Number one, avoid fast food. Number two, beware of packaged food. If a food has been packaged to stay on the shelf for a long time, it's been processed usually in some way so it doesn't go bad. Number three, don't eat food that you can eat standing up. Convenience food. Buy things that you have to sit down and use a knife and a fork on. Typically, if it's a food that you can eat standing up, it's got tons of carbs in it. And you're holding it by the bread or usually. And number four, make sure that it has fat, fiber, protein, and preferably something green. Use those criteria to make a good decision. And also just remember. Oh, I'm sorry. We got one little bit. What about restaurants? If you're at a restaurant, number one, if the food comes in a wrapper, the wrapper is usually healthier than the food. Don't eat it. Number two, never order soda at a restaurant. Number three, don't let the server bring bread or chips to the table. That's probably the most difficult thing for me because I like my chips and salsa. But it's easier to avoid those if you just don't let the waiter bring those to the table. Number four, don't order dessert. And number five, don't feel like you need to finish a meal just because you paid for it. You can take half of it to go, or you can just leave it there. Get up and leave it. That's quite all right. No one's you're not going to lose your frugal card because you left some food on the plate. And we don't all need to be members of the Clean Plate Club. So anyway, I hope these were helpful tips for you, and we will talk to you tomorrow. So again, this is Aaron Farmer with mysugarfreejourney.com. Please remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel to make sure you never miss a video. Appreciate it, guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.